follow King Jesus. And my dad lived that out in every way possible in his life. I threw in Micah 6:8 last week. The Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you: to do what's right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Such an important scripture that you can throw into your life and into the code that you're passing on to your family. Those are defining moments in your life when you're able to take a step back and think about what you're asking your family to live out, right? How you're living, what you're asking them to live. But maybe it needs to go one step deeper than just creating your own code for your family. Maybe we need to look at who we are as individuals deep inside of us. Maybe we need to define ourselves. Now, that's a massive task. You really have to work hard to do that. But you need to think, who am I, right? What am I? What are my values? What's my purpose? What impact am I trying to make? And you need to be able to define that for yourself. And if you could do that, and if you could choose just one word to define who you are, what would that one word be? Just think about that for a minute. If you're thinking about everything about who you are, what you do, how you live, all of those things, what one word defines who you are? For some of you, maybe the word that you would choose might be the word successful. For some of you, it might be influential. For some of you, it might be the word happy, right? I mean, for me, I'd like to be successful. And God does make some people successful. He provides that in people's lives. And my prayer is that you're successful in everything that you do. And every endeavor that you take. I pray that you're successful in that. You know, the word influential is interesting because God has called us to be salt and light to our culture, right? He's called you to be an influencer. He's called you to make an impact. Influential is a good word. Happy is a great word. And another word for happy is blessed, fulfilled in life. I mean, those are all good things. But if I'm going to step back and just define myself, my life, what I believe, who I am in one word, I want that one word to be faithful. Now, that's a tough one. And that's a big time word because what does it mean to be faithful? Well, for me, I would love to come to the end of my life and I would love to hear Jesus say to me, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That's it. That's the purpose of my life. I would love, anybody else, would you love to hear that at the end of your life? Well done, good and faithful servant. I mean, when you think about everything that happens with that phrase and that thought process, are you faithful? I turn to the person next to you. Maybe there's a couple people around you. Turn to them, all right? Look at them for just a second. Tell them this: you look faithful today. Tell them that. I have no idea what faithful looks like. I don't know. But if you look faithful, then you must feel faithful, and that can only lead to positive things in your life. You look faithful. We've talked a lot over the past several weeks about pre-deciding how we're going to respond before we get into any situation, right? Because if we don't pre-decide how we're going to respond in any situation, we're going to give in, we're going to give up, we're going to mess up, we're going to destroy one of those moments in our lives that we don't want to destroy. And so when we look at being faithful and we decide to be faithful, when we pre-decide to be faithful, it changes everything about your experience, right? And one of the reasons that it's so difficult to be faithful, to pre-decide to be faithful, is because we all want our lives to be easy. I mean, that's the reality. We don't want issues. We don't want troubles. We don't want struggles. We don't want heartaches. We don't want conflicts. We just want our lives to be easy. We want our lives to be convenient. And being faithful, especially faithful to God, doing what's right, is never easy. Ever. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy life to live, but it is always worth it. It's worth it, and it's more beneficial than you'll ever realize. Habakkuk 2 says this, look at the proud. They trust in themselves, and their lives are crooked, but the righteous will live by their faithfulness to God. Look at the proud. Anybody here know someone that's proud? Don't elbow her. Don't do that. That's not nice. You want to leave married, right? So don't elbow. All right? Are you proud? Do you know somebody that's proud? You know, you're looking at the proud kind of stuff, and what proud means is, you know, they kind of do what they do because they think they have the answers to it, right? They trust in themselves. Their lives aren't always perfect. As a matter of fact, they're usually messed up because they're trusting in themselves and not trusting in God, but they're still proud. They're trusting in their own wisdom, right? They think they know it all, so they trust in their own knowledge. They're never open for criticisms. They're never open for maybe some encouraging. It's just, I know what I'm doing. Don't bother me with that. That's kind of their attitude. They're always proud. They trust in their own goodness. They trust in their own bank accounts. They trust in their own abilities because they're proud. Now, the righteous, it says, will live by their faithfulness to God. The proud will be destroyed. Anybody else in here deal with pride? Raise your hand. Anybody? You think you know everything that there is to know? You think you can't learn anything more because you're right all the time? You think that your ways are always the right ways? I deal with that a lot in my life. I mean, I think I can do things on my own. I think, you know what, I'm good enough. I can be self-sufficient. And Scripture says you need to rethink that process because you can't make it on your own, and you can't make it on your own wisdom. You need outside counsel. You need outside support. You can't do it yourself. You need godly wisdom in your life. So quit trying to trust yourself and invite that wisdom in so that you can live a life that's faithful and righteous. Now, what does it mean to be faithful? I mean, if you're married, the first thing that probably comes to your mind is not cheating on your spouse. So are you faithful to your spouse? That's a big deal, right? If you're not faithful, then why are you married? If you're not faithful, then what are you doing? Get your head on straight. Get your head out of the clouds. Get your head out of wherever it is and start walking a more godly life so that you can build relationship and build your spouse and build yourself to be better than you are. You know, the faithfulness is huge because when we think about faithfulness, it's not just our marriages. For some of us, we think about faithful and we have to be faithful in everything we do, and that includes your taxes. And you're going, oh boy, here we go. Taxes, really? That's government money. It doesn't matter. It's my money the government's misusing. I'm not going to, listen, government says you have to pay your taxes, you pay your taxes. You be faithful in doing that. You be honest in doing that. You be upright in doing that. You be holy in doing that, right? Because that's the right approach. Now, again, talking about faithfulness, Jesus had a different view on faithfulness than what we probably have. It's a different approach. Matter of fact, if you do a word study on every time that Jesus uses the word faithful in the Scripture, you'll see that he had three different categories whenever he talked about faithfulness. He talked about faithfulness and how you treat people. That's huge. He talked about faithfulness and how you use your resources. Big time deal there. And he talked about faithfulness and how you respond to God. So if we're going to be faithful, we have to pre-decide that every time that you interact with someone, it's an opportunity to add value to their life. Are you faithful in your relationships in that way? The second decision is every resource we have is an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. And the third decision we have to make is this. When you feel God nudge you, it's an opportunity to do something, so do you do it? Do you do it? Every time Jesus talked about faithfulness, he talked about how you treat people, how you treat your resources, and whether you're willing to follow him or not. So what does that mean? That means that wherever you go, every person that you meet, everyone that you see is an opportunity to be nice. Do you do that? It's an opportunity to encourage someone. Do you do that? It's an opportunity to be generous. It's an opportunity to add value to someone else's life. Are you living faithful in that way? I started watching these YouTube videos of a guy who talks about how you treat people and how you live your life, and it matters and it makes a difference. I'm going, oh, this is pretty good. And he has all kinds of different scenarios, right? Where he walks into a restaurant, there's no seats open except one at his table, and a guy wants a seat, he wants to eat lunch, and so he invites the guy to sit at his table with him, and he talks about how that changed this guy's attitude for the day and how it changed his attitude for the day and what a difference that makes. And then at the end he said, and that guy ended up being an incredible contact for my business for me. He talks about another time when something happened. He's going, listen, this is what happens. And because of that, I made $10,000 off of this guy, and just in the way that it happened. And he talks about it happening in a different time. And look at how that responds to my business culture and how I'm going to be better off for that contact and that information and this relationship because I was just simply nice to people. And I'm thinking, you're so close. You're so close to getting it. Right? You're so close to understanding that what you're doing is really a God thing and it's not about you. If you take it away from being about you and what you get and what you receive and how you benefit from that, and you put it into a God situation where you are benefiting someone and their life's going to be different because you were Jesus in their life and you made an impact in their life, that's when you start to get it. This guy almost had it. We have to pre-decide that every person that we see is an opportunity for us to show them the love of God in a way that brings value to them, that brings a blessing to their life. It's not about us. And the reason that we pre-decide is because we will never add value accidentally. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to be an accident. Oh, I am just in this person. You're going to be like that guy on those YouTube videos. And it becomes all about you. What do you get? How can you benefit? How do you get something for yourself out of this scenario? That's what it will end up being. You don't believe me? That we're always more interested in ourselves first than we are other people? We took this picture out in the lobby. All right, there's a good picture there. Several people out in the lobby. Now, when you look at that picture, here's the deal. In that picture, who is the person in that picture? They're in this room right now. Who are they looking at, the very first person when they see that picture? Who is it? Themselves. That's exactly right. That's why my wife takes 612 selfies for every one that she posts of her and I. You're not smiling in that one. The sun's not right in that one. You're blinking in this one. Your mouth's open in that one. Yeah, we're not using any of those. In this picture, when Shannon Laufer, when that picture came up, she looked at herself, or Shannon's in the back row with their brand new 1-week-old baby boy back there. So, nice job, guys. Shannon's looking at us going, I don't like the way I'm smiling in that picture. That's a bad picture. Why'd you put that picture up? Well, we put that picture up because I look good in that picture. That's why we put it up. And that's all that matters, right? What matters is how we think we look, right? And if we don't look good, we don't want the picture. Now, when you look at those kind of things and you think about that mindset, it's the same mindset we have when we interact with people. We come up to someone, maybe we know them, maybe we don't, and we start a conversation with them, and our first thought is, did I just say something stupid? Did I say something wrong? Did I embarrass myself in that conversation? What if, instead of thinking and saying, will they like me? Did I do something wrong in this conversation to turn them away? How about you pre-decide before you go into the conversation to add value to their life? You go in being an encourager. You go in being a person that's just not seeing a negative thing, but seeing positive things in their life. Encouraging what you see and how you see them, what they're doing, and you're just building them up. You're lifting them up. You're encouraging. How about we pre-decide to do that instead of thinking about how we come across? That's a form of faithfulness to God. Ephesians 4:29 says this, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." I love this. To be faithful to God, we're going to add value to people. That's an incredible thought process. In other words, when you walk into a room, doesn't matter if you're an extrovert, an introvert, somewhere in between, things change in that room because you're there. Because you're an encourager. Because you're someone who's a blessing. Because when you tell the truth, you try to tell the truth in love, not to be brutal with anybody, but just to tell the truth in love. The people are going to be better. They're going to have more faith. They're going to be more blessed because you were there. How about we decide to do that? It will change people's lives around you. Way to be faithful, church. You know, that's our key motto, right? To love God and love people and help others do the same. That's our theme in this church. That's our mission in this church. To love God, love people, and help others do the same. Way to go if you're living that out right now. Because you're being faithful to God. In fact, when you look at what Jesus did and how he treated people around him, it was always to encourage some type of growth in people. Now, that's not always true when it came to the religious leaders, but it was true with every other person that he met. I mean, his disciples, he's always encouraging, right? He has these guys that are closest to him. And his disciples, they're worried, they're stressed. And Jesus says, don't worry about tomorrow. God's got this. He's encouraging them, right? I know you're worried about what's going on. Don't worry. God's got this. When you or your friends are worried about what's happening around you today, currently, don't panic. Don't worry. Don't stress. You're going, Scott, come on. I mean, do you know who our president is? Yeah. I support whoever our president is because of the office that they hold. I will love them and respect them and pray for them and encourage them. I am as apolitical as you can possibly get, but I love this country and I believe God's in charge of who our leadership is. That's what I believe, right? And so I'm encouraging, and he was encouraging them. Now, when your friends say, Scott, do you know what's happening around the world right now? Listen, I stayed up last night and watched, the news, the stories, the things that are going on. I don't appreciate the bombings. I'm not in the middle of that scenario, but we have several service people that are in the Middle East right now, and I'm praying for them, and I'm praying for God to protect them and provide for them because that's kind of a messy type place. But listen, God's in control of it. We're not. There's not 1 ounce of worry that will change what will happen in these scenarios. Nothing. God's in control. God's got it handled. Does it mean there may not be difficult times? No, there probably will be. But I believe God's in control of the difficult times too. And I believe we will be able to make it through these moments because of our faithfulness to God. Trust him. Scripture says that he cares for the birds. He knows everything that's going on. He provides for them. He cares for the flowers in the fields. He provides for them. Do you think he doesn't care about you? Do you think he doesn't care about what's going on? Of course he does. And he's there. Just trust him. Jesus says, don't worry. Now, whenever you look at Jesus' encounters through the New Testament, the people he came into contact with, look at how he dealt with them. I mean, there's this woman that's caught in the act of adultery. Some of you know that story. Some of you may not. The people bring her to Jesus so that Jesus can condemn her, right? Because Jesus is a religious leader at that point. And some people wanted to trap Jesus. Some people wanted to see what Jesus would say in the situation. But they bring this woman so that Jesus could condemn her. That was the purpose behind it. And Jesus sees the situation. He sees the woman who's devastated, right? I mean, her whole life has just been destroyed from her actions, from the people's actions. Her life is in turmoil. And Jesus kneels down in the sand, and we have no idea what Jesus writes in the sand, but he writes something, or a bunch of somethings. And one by one, the men that brought this lady to condemn her start to leave. Maybe he's writing what their sins were because he knew all of their sins. So maybe he's writing that. Maybe Jesus is just putting their names down so that they'll know that Jesus knows what they've done and where they've been. Anyway, Jesus talks to the woman. He said, "Where are your accusers?" And she said, "They're gone. There are none." And then Jesus said, "I'm not accusing you either. And I'm not condemning you either. I love you. Now get up, go your way, stop this life of sinfulness that you're living because it's not benefiting you. Get out of that and start living a righteous, faithful type life. You're free. Don't waste that." Jesus, from a loving heart, says that. When the Apostle Peter, or wasn't the Apostle Peter at the time, Jesus is in his trial stage before he gets crucified, and even during that whole process, and Peter denies knowing Jesus 3 times. Now, what should have Jesus done? I mean, should he looked out into the crowd and looked at Peter and said, "I can't believe you did that. How could you betray me? How could you deny me?" No. Jesus' heart was so full of love. Listen, you know what Jesus did? Instead of, criticize him and condemn him, he had breakfast with him. And he said, "Listen, Peter." And Peter's so remorseful. "I'm so sorry." Jesus is going, "Peter, listen. If you love me, do you love me?" Peter says, "Of course I love you." He said, "Then feed my sheep." We've got work to do. We don't have time to dwell on the past. We don't have time to think about where you've been and what you've done, your mistakes, your failures, your hang-up. We don't have time for that. There's a job to do. Let's get busy fulfilling the job in the kingdom. That's how Jesus looked at people. So how do you look at people? How do you look at them? I mean, do you look at people thinking every interaction that I have with someone is the opportunity to show them the love of God? Do you build them up? Do you show grace? Are you a blessing to them? Friends, you have no idea how one encouraging word from you might make a difference in their future. It might keep them alive today. I had a story of that last week. Somebody came to church a couple weeks ago, and they were thinking about suicide, and they talked to this other family, and they said, "Pastor Scott's words last week made me not do suicide today." Just an encouraging word. Something that was said. That might be your case. Your encouragement, your love, your support might make a huge difference. Here's the second way to be faithful. Every resource we have is an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. In Matthew 25, Jesus told a parable about a very wealthy man going on a trip, and he leaves his wealth to his servants. He gave one guy 5 bags of gold. He gave another guy 2 bags of gold. And he gave the third guy 1 bag of gold. And the first 2 went out. They put the money to work. They invested it. They risked it. They doubled what they had. Matthew 25:21 says this. The master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Well done. You multiplied what I gave you. You didn't hide it. You didn't kind of squander it. In the kingdom of God, when you multiply what God gives you, that's faithfulness. Now, one of the ways that you can be faithful is simply by caring for what God gives to you. You understand that, right? We have all been giving things in this world. All of us. Resources, stuff, talents, gifts. We've all been given things. And the key is not to squander those, not to be wicked and lazy. For example, if God gives you a front yard that's junky, do you know what he wants you to do with that? Make it the best looking yard in the neighborhood. Why? Because God gave that to you. You don't squander it. You don't complain about it. You don't not look at it and not cut it. You make it the best it possibly can be. If God gave you a clunker of a car, right? You're going, "Oh, can't believe this is the car I drive." Hey, listen, God gave you that resource. Maybe you go and get it washed. Maybe you sweep it out. Maybe you make it the best car it can possibly be because God gave you that resource, and your responsibility is not to squander that resource, but to use it to be faithful because God gave it to you. Matthew 25:25 says this, I was afraid, I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here it is, what it belongs to you. The master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. Wicked and lazy, because he buried it in the ground and he gave it back to the master. Listen, God doesn't want you to squander what you've got. And we've all been given something. Don't dig a hole and bury it. Don't say someday I'll get around to it. Use the resource that God has given you to make an impact on the people around you. When you see a need, you step up and help. Maybe for you, you're at the gas station. Really simple way to do this. And you notice the person at the pump next to you is scrounging for change to pay for their gas. Guess what you do? You buy their gas. You fill their car up for them. I'm never going to, really? Is it going to affect you a whole lot to spend $48 on a tank of gas from someone? You probably won't even miss it. But it might change that person's life because you were faithful with your resource. Maybe for you, you're looking at one of your neighbors. And maybe they can't be out in 90-degree heat like it is today, right? Stifling out there. So what do? Well, their grass hasn't been mowed in a couple of weeks, and it's been raining a lot, and that grass is getting... You know what? Come on, honey, let's go mow their grass. We're going to be fine. It's not going to affect us. You know, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour of our time in the middle of some heat, we can use the exercise. Let's go out and do something for them. So you go out and make a difference with the resource that you have. You be faithful in that, right? Now, here's the deal. Every resource is an opportunity to make a difference. Every relationship is an opportunity for you to make a difference in someone's life. And when you feel God nudge you, you need to step out and do that. Have you, anybody here felt God nudge you to do something? You just kind of, I know I should do something, but I'm just, I don't know how to do that. I'm out of place doing that. I don't feel like I can step into that situation. I'm just not, and God's pushing you, like he's trying to push you into that scenario. No, not now, not me, not here, not this. But yet you know, and all that afternoon, all that night, you're thinking about, man, I should have done something. Right? That was God nudging you to do something, to help someone, to say something. So what stopped you? In Acts chapter 20, it says this, and now I'm bound by the Spirit to go to Jerusalem, and I don't know what awaits me there. Right? No idea. He's like, I can't explain it. I don't understand it. I don't know the details. I know that I'm being nudged or I'm being drawn to go to Jerusalem. And I have no idea what's going to happen. But his faithfulness was responding to God nudging him to do it. You need to respond. I was at Guitar Center last week. Shocking for some of you, I know. All right, it's one of my weaknesses. And I was there, and I ran into Joe. Now, Joe's the repair guy at Guitar Center. And I've run into Joe before. I've known Joe since he was a teenager. He's the same age as my kids. And I've known him since he was a teenager. His mom and dad are friends of ours, and I've known them for 25 years. And Joe and I started talking guitars. Now, understand this about me. I don't believe in coincidences, but I do believe in God incidences. Right? God puts you in the right place at the right time, at the right moment for that person or for you to be able to make an impact. That's what I believe in. That's how I live my life. Right? It's not a coincidence we met today. It's a God incident. And so we're talking guitars and challenges with guitars. And I said I was having trouble with one of mine. He said, I do some work on the side. He said, I'll come over and help you if you want. I said, that'd be great. So we set up a time for him. Now, did I need him to come and help me? Probably not. But it was cool that opportunity was there, right? And so it's a nudge from God. Joe shows up. Joellen talks to him for a few minutes. We go into to get to my guitar stuff, and we talk guitars for 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And then he took a look at my guitar, and he gave me his opinion on it, and he's getting ready to leave. He said, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? He said, I've been wanting to talk to you about some of this stuff every time I see you, but I just haven't. He said, my friends are really into the Bible right now. Now, this is a 26-year-old young man, right? He said, my friends are really into the Bible right now. And so I picked it up and I started reading it too. And I just have some questions. Now, let me tell you this. As a person of faith, that lit my fire, man. I mean, that's like, there's nothing that could make me happier than somebody coming to me saying, hey, do you have some answers about the Bible that you could share with me? Yes, I do. But I didn't do that. But I said, yeah, let's talk. And so we started talking about faith. And we started talking about the Bible. And we started talking about how to read the Bible and what these scriptures meant and how to dig deeper into some of that stuff. That was one of the coolest, most faith-filled moments I've had in years. And it was all because I was faithful to hearing God's nudge. I was just going to go talk to Joe today. Just go and see how he is. That was God nudging me. That wasn't me. That was God. And because I listened to God, it opened up this opportunity to talk about faith in Jesus. Now, where are you? Are you being a blessing in your relationships? Are you being faithful to that? Are you being a blessing with your resources? Are you using them to help people? Are you faithful in that? And are you responding when God is nudging you to do something? And are you faithful in that? Maybe today we need to start by giving our lives to Jesus. I know some of you have done that. Some of you are in the middle of that. Some of you are at the beginning stages of that. It starts with just a little bit of faith, right? Just a little bit of faith. And then you're going, God, this is where I've been. I don't want to be here anymore. How do I get this stuff, this junk, this sin out of my life? And then turning a new direction in your life, being willing to go, I'm going to walk that direction instead of where I've been that's been destroying me. I need to change my direction and surrendering to him in baptism. Now, why baptism? Because you have to completely surrender yourself to do that, right? To be dunked under the water is like, I've got no pride in this left. I'm surrendering to you and letting you take control of my life. And then see what God's going to do with you. See where God's going to lead you. See what doors God may open for you. Be faithful in all you do, because I want to hear, and I know you want to hear, well done, good